You mentioned the 5 initiatives that the group is working on, and 3, I thought it was interesting, 3 of them, food sovereignty, energy sovereignty, and environmental justice, all have to do with, at least as I would describe it anyway, you may correct me, but our humanity's relationship with the created world, with the natural world around us. Could you say a little bit about why that's important, both in terms of the work of the group, but also in terms of the culture and spiritual perspective of the Menominee people?
Yeah, I think for the for our group, we recognized relatively early on, when we started to come together and just talk amongst ourselves. We started to see that there was like a common theme, that there was things that we all kind of shared, and one of the things I think that was so very instrumental was our understanding of like who we are, and that the story that's being portrayed about us, or the general narrative that is dominant, is somebody else's version of what they think we are.
Mm.
And when you look around our community, we started to recognize that a lot of the signage and things that we were telling ourselves was somebody else's definition of who we were. And that we as a people have been through forced relocation. We've been through boarding schools, the treaty era. I mean, we could go on and on and on, about the devastation that has happened to us as a people. And we recognize that we're still here, and we still have the ability to learn our language and our culture, and we have an understanding of ourselves. There's not many communities that this has happened in other places of the world that can say, hey, we still know who we are, we still have our connection to the land. These communities are no longer here, or they're decimated, or there's absolutely no memory of it. So we recognize that, and we've seen that, like, we should be congratulating ourselves like every day. Like, we should be celebrating the fact that we are survivors, that we are resilient as a people. And like, this narrative that's being told about us, that somehow paints us in a picture of like we're weak, or that we have all these problems, and this is like, that's total BS. It's like, you go through what we went through and see what happens to you in your community, see if you can make it, kind of a thing. And we recognize that pretty early on, about our strengths, and like, why wouldn't we build on that strength? Why not? Let's focus on that strength. Let's talk about it, and let's build whatever we're going to build off of that. And how do we as a people, where did that strength come from? Where has it, how could we as a people go through that, and still be here? When you kind of dive into that area a little bit, you start to recognize that it's our language, and that it's our culture, and it's our connection with the earth, and it's our connection with Creator. We are of this land. This land and these rivers flow through my veins. There is no separation. I am of it. Our language is of it. If you were to close your eyes and listen to our language being spoken, it describes its surroundings. It's a very melodic language, and it's all about building each other up, and about building connection. This language that we're speaking now, that you're listening to me speak, is a foreign language of this land, and it's a fear-based and a deficit thinking language. It sees problems and builds whole things around those problems, and our language is the opposite of that.
Mm.
So this connection, we wanted to make sure that people understood that we are connected as a people, and we are connected to this land. And anything we do, or any direction that we're gonna go, it has to be on the foundation of our strengths, in my opinion. And our answers aren't going to come out of a don't. They're not going to come out of a negative. Um, so that's some of the things that we've been focusing on, and really, trying to change that narrative about who we are, and starting to get some of our people to celebrate the fact of who we really are, and that it's okay. Like we deserve the right to be who we are without anybody putting us down, or any kind of organization or any kind of government telling us that we can't.
Well, that's very inspiring to hear that. I think about now when we're going through the pandemic and people are sort of questioning their resilience and all of this, and um, to see an example of people focusing on their strengths as a way of surviving is I think really important.
Yeah,
I,
absolutely.
no, I appreciate that.
Hmm.
You mentioned in the importance of language in that whole scenario of resilience. Now, my understanding is that there's a pretty strong effort going on right now in the Menominee Nation to preserve the language. Is that right?
Yeah, I think quite a few nations obviously recognize the fact that our language is the key really to a lot of things, and our understanding of ourselves and of our surroundings. Um, so there's a lot of work in a lot of places, that are trying to revive their language or save what they have. There's been quite a big effort here, really since like the '70s, to preserve what we have, and in the last probably 5 years, a really good friend of mine, a brother of mine, has taken the initiative to push that language learning even further, and he's been pretty successful on what he's been doing. So it's inspiring to see, especially when you think about times like this in a pandemic, and your mind can kind of go crazy about thinking of the elders in our community, and thinking about how what goes with them if we lose them. That the language goes with them, and the culture, and just the actual like local history of what they know, goes with them, and it's pretty scary, or it can be, it can kind of be a rabbit hole too. But I really remember one of our elders talking to me, when I was early on in my language learning, and basically what they had told me was that our language came from the creator, and it came out of love for us as a people, and we could never lose it, that it's gonna, even if we all forget it, in a sense, somebody somewhere will again be reminded of it, and we can rebuild it again. And I think in some ways that's what my brother and a lot of us are doing, is trying to rebuild that as well.
We were talking earlier about resiliency being a lesson that your people can teach everyone. Um, as we think about our connection to the Great Lakes, to the Great Lakes Basin, to the water, the land, do you think there are other lessons that the rest of us need to learn from the Menominee tradition and culture, and how you approach that connection?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that it's the hard part is how far apart we are. Um, in terms of just language. Like I just said before, how different our languages are, two different perspectives and you know, we see things quite differently, and to know a community, or to know a people, you need to know their language. And the thing about it is that our language is so connected, and it's all about um, me and you and our relationship to one another, and it's about respect. It has it all in there. Our culture is so vast, and there's so much to it, but really the foundation of it is that, that the connection is so much there, and that these things that they call natural resources, you know, aren't, we don't view them like that. You know, we see them as an extension of ourselves. And you know, there's been a pretty good movement that's started a couple years ago, and maybe even longer than that, about recognizing the rights of nature, and that's something for us that you know, we've been doing for thousands and thousands of years. And we see this earth as a mother, as we come from her. We are the physical manifestations of her, and what we do to her, we do to ourselves. And you know, this crazy idea of trying to dominate her and treat her this way is something so foreign to us as a people, and culturally. um you know, it's been a long time since you know, the dominant language on our reservation has been Menominee, but deep down inside, you know, we still know that we're connected to this earth, and that we love this earth, and we'll do what we have to protect it and the water.